Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performers Podcast. I'm your host, Thor Conklin. Today, we are going to talk about something that all entrepreneurs suffer with, and that is finding the right talent, knowing who to hire, and then once you get them on board, how do you keep them on board so somebody like Matt doesn't take them away and take them to another company. Matt Massucci, did I get that right? Massucci, thank you. Co-founded Hirewell in 2001. He saw the need and an approach for recruiting in the marketplace that you really needed a relationship-focused, process and results-oriented way. He's got 20 years of experience in building strong relationships with top-tier organizations. He was with Deloitte and with Andersen. Matt, welcome to the show, and I got to tell you, this is something I'm really looking forward to because your company is Hire Well. If I formed a company in this area, it would be Hire Poorly. We've made tons of mistakes in the past, and I'm looking forward to learning for myself because we're always growing here as well. So what drove you into this area?
Well, I started my career in accounting, first at Andersen, but then Deloitte after that. And I learned that pretty quickly the big company wasn't for me. Wanted to get into something a little more sales focused, a little bit more quick upward potential. So I got into recruiting before I really even knew exactly what it was. But 18 years later, learned a lot and been able to kind of see and do a lot of pretty interesting things.
And you co-founded the company as well. I know that your partner left about a year and a half ago, but, every time I talk with entrepreneurs, and they have partners, what are some of the lessons that you learned along the way with having a partner alongside?
I think an important thing is just figuring out who's going to be responsible for what, how your skills complement each other, and then just continually making sure you're on the same page, you have the same goals, same objectives. I think early on it was a great fit. We really did complement each other well, but as the business grew, we kind of realized we both wanted some different things out of it, and ultimately just chose to part ways a little while back.
Yeah, it's almost like a marriage, isn't it? You got to continue.
Very much so.
You start off and it's the honeymoon phase. Everybody loves everybody. And then it's like, people grow, different things happen. People get married, they get divorced, they have kids. They want to move to Chicago. Or actually, you guys are in Chicago. They want to move to LA. Things happen. So it always evolves. Congratulations on the 5th year of the Inc. 5000. Well done.
Thanks.
What's the secret sauce there, man?
I wish there was some kind of magic bullet or kind of story I could tell. It's a lot of hard work and surrounding myself with a great team. We've got a great group of clients. We've got a great team that works hard and continually does well. And that's been how we've been able to differentiate ourselves.
It was interesting. I was looking through your website earlier, and you have a couple of people on staff that are listed as partners. Are those true partners where they have equity stakes in the company?
Correct, yes.
Interesting. Okay. And, this topic comes up an awful lot with clients. Thor, I've got some key players on the team. I want to give them an incentive to stay. I'm not quite sure if I want to make them a partner. I do phantom shares, real stock. What did you do, and what have you found has been successful and what has not been, if you've tried different things?
I talk to a lot of different people. I think that's the key thing, is get a lot of advice and then figure out what you're trying to accomplish and how you want to incent them, both short-term and long-term. So that's what we've been able to do. It was not a quick process. It's something that took, a year to 2 years. But, again, if you have great people are always going to have a lot of options, and you need to structure something that incentivizes them to work hard and be part of this, both, again, short-term and long-term.
I find that money tends to be one of the worst motivating factors in trying to acquire, well, maybe not acquire, but to keep talent. There's never enough money to throw at a potential person in order to make them stay just for the money. What do you find that people are looking for nowadays? And I'd like to get a little bit different perspective on kind of the C-suite, the middle management, and then kind of the millennial tech, because I'm sure each one of them kind of has a different driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something we talk about when we train our recruiters and what they want to learn and what they want to focus on. It's what are people's motivations for looking for a new opportunity, looking for a new job. It's always kind of one of 4 or 5 different things. It can be compensation, it can be upward trajectory, it can be the company, it can be the culture, it can be the location. Those are all kind of key things. Money is always a factor. It's, it's part attraction, it's part retention for people. But as you said, it can't be the only thing. If that's all people care about, there's always going to be somebody that can pay more. Internally, it's kind of a unique thing. We've tried to build an organization that people can optimize their financial output. If they work hard, we've built a machine here that operates well and can allow great people to do better than they can anywhere else. So that's something we've really prided ourselves on and something we've done well. But, we're a very performance-driven company. And, and what we've tried to do is create a culture where people can take a hard job with a lot of ups and downs and continually do well and be successful.
And what about the C-suites? When you're recruiting in that area, what tends to be the number one driver?
Again, it varies a little bit, but it's usually a different set of things. I mean, when people at the top of the organization, it is where can they be the most successful and what's going to get them on the path to something in the, usually in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's going to be some kind of combination of compensation, but equity or kind of upside from being part of that leadership team of an organization to really being part of a company that's going to make a difference and change the world a lot of times.
What do you tell your clients that are actually, the companies looking to acquire the talent? What do you tell them as far as techniques in order to retain the talent long term? You have to continually stay competitive, and that's in a variety of things. You need to continually stay in touch with the people and kind of what, when someone joins versus 6, 12, 18 months down the line, it's their motivations can change, what they're looking for, the company evolves, the role evolves, a lot of things change. If you're not constantly talking to people and doing semi-annual or even quarterly check-ins for those types of things, you can really lose sight of what's important to people. It's so interesting that you say that, because I see that happen all the time with organizations. We talk about what's going on with this team. I don't know. I haven't really checked in with them. I was like, why would you do that? I mean, think of this as a relationship, and it really is. I mean, they have the ability to leave anytime they want to. They don't have to come into work the next day. Like a marriage. Going back to that, I mean, could you imagine not talking to your spouse for 4 months? What, right? They're going to find somebody that wants to talk to them.
Right.
As employers, I think we forget that it's a relationship that needs to be continued to be nurtured, and we need to be checking in because things change.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know why people tend to do that. What keeps you up at night?
It's a combination right now. I mean, the job market's as strong as it can be. So, luckily we have a lot of great companies that are looking to hire. For us, it's continually satisfying them. I mean, we're in a very results oriented business. We can have, track records of working with companies for 5, 10 years. But at the end of the day, that can all go away if we can't deliver on their next big search or their next kind of, big hiring push or initiative. So it's delivering for clients, and then, continuing to kind of find great people and keep them happy. I know that the market for the type of people we have is extremely hot, and I know there's a lot of companies out there that would love to hire our people. So it's making sure that they're happy, and we're continuing to challenge them and giving them more and more upward potential.
Where do you see the market changing in the next couple of years?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's evolved a lot. I've been in the search and staffing and talent acquisition world for a long time, and it's continually changing. I mean, I think it's always been extremely fragmented. There's companies and tools and technologies and a lot of things out there that are going to revolutionize the talent acquisition space. It has changed a lot. I mean, from LinkedIn, 8 to 10 years ago, to a lot of kind of niche tools and service offerings. I mean, that's kind of where it's going. But so much of it is driven by will that the job market stay as hot as it has been, and if it does, it's just salary is going to keep going up, and companies are going to have to spend as much time and effort on attracting people as they are retaining them, because it does cost way more money to replace someone than it does to keep someone good. So, to
what extent do you use, or does the industry rely on personality tests, things that are not just on the resume, but finding out really what's driving that person. Are there anything that you found out there that I know no one says there's a holy grail out there, but to what extent do you guys use personality tests to create a good fit?
We use them internally. I think it's a great way to figure out how someone meshes with the existing group, existing team, and we try to benchmark what our top performers, what their kind of makeup is, and how do we replicate it. Not that you want everybody to be exactly the same, but it's kind of nice in some situations. We're seeing more and more with clients. There's a few tools that we use that we've seen, be successful. There's a number of big players like, DISC and, Myers-Briggs and things like that are pretty well known and out there. Once it the higher up you get within an organization, so when you're talking C-suite or, a rung or two down, it's pretty standard procedure to do that sort of thing or that sort of, assessment just to kind of validate who you're talking to and how they're wired and, what's going to drive them to be successful.
Yeah. In an organization, I get asked this question a lot. What do you think is the most important role within an organization?
I think it varies, by both the company as well as kind of what stage they're at. I mean, I think for early stage companies, you need somebody who's going to drive business. I mean, because if you don't have clients, you don't have revenue coming in, everything else is kind of irrelevant. I think once you kind of get past that point in time, then it's how do you deliver on it? Because, if you solve the problem of how we're going to attract clients, it's how do we keep them happy and how do we keep them, engaged with us. So, that's a lot of different things, but it depends upon the company and kind of what it is. But, for us, the delivery side are the recruiters. Those are the ones who are actually delivering day in and day out for our clients. Those are key pieces. Companies are a little bit more established, then it gets more on the innovation. Who's going to drive kind of the next big idea and the thing that's going to keep you relevant? I mean, if you're not growing, if you're not evolving and changing as an organization and keeping up with the times, you'll get passed up. I mean, we've seen that time and time again over the last 10 years, entire industries that just get revolutionized by technology and kind of whole areas that just go by the wayside.
You mean yellow cabs aren't coming back?
They're not doing great right now.
I just saw that the UK court approved a license for Uber to stay in London.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about a game changer.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, I love this. You're absolutely right. You've got to drive sales first. After that, you've got to make sure that you can deliver. And then once you've got that nailed, you really have to have somebody that's doing the innovation. One of the areas that I see a lot of clients suffer with is finding that number two guy or number two girl. Head of execution, chief operations officer. That's an area that, the companies grow where the founders are doing everything. They're just, doing whatever is necessary. And then they've got to get out of the way. And then they've got to have somebody else to give the reins over to and run with it. So they can then be the innovator or the person that can really start to take the company to the next level. What do you think makes up? And again, I know you see a lot of different areas. What do you think makes a great executor? What makes for that? I call him a number two guy. What makes a great number two guy?
It's someone who, understands the business in and out, how it works, how it runs, how, again, a little bit of all three of those pieces I talked about, the business development, the delivery, and the innovation. It's someone who kind of understands all of those. I think that the ideal scenario is someone who's grown within the company and understands, has been in kind of a variety of functions within an organization. That's not always possible. Sometimes companies have to go outside. If you go outside for someone like that, it's got to be someone who's done it before, and it doesn't have to be the exact role, but it's got to be, what we see with clients is they'll look for people who've come out of similar stage, growth. Somebody who's taken a company from 50 people to 500. I mean, that's a big jump, and things change. And how do you scale an org chart? And how do you scale the various aspects to keep up with the growth? So, it's a home run if you can get someone who can do it from the inside. But if you have to go outside, then you want someone who's done a very similar scenario or similar thing. And it's a lot of it. I mean, with any role, whether it's operations or somebody who runs sales or somebody to run engineering, you want someone who's frankly, learned the hard way at some other organizations, right? Because everybody makes mistakes, everybody has setbacks, but how do you learn from it, and how do you evolve and do it better the next time?
Yeah, I like what you said about that. Bring up somebody within the organization that has also worked in other areas of the organization. I remember I had a manufacturing company, and at one point I needed to go out in the field and I needed to do an installation. And I did the installation. I'm like, why are we doing it like this? I mean, this stuff is really, really heavy. We need more people. We need different equipment. Like, yeah, we just never thought about asking about or telling you about it. So if I had not done it and been the one turning the wrenches, I would have had no concept of what was necessary and to make their jobs easier. I think that's a really, really good point. To be a great operations person, you really got to be in all the pieces of the operation, at least at one point. I know, was it Chick-fil-A? When you go to work for them, if you're going to be someone who takes over the one of their stores, you start off and do all the jobs in the organization, so you know exactly how it's done.
Sure.
So you started a company. What did you find out? What you didn't really expect when you started the company? It's like, okay, now this is what it's like to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. What did you not expect? I mean, you had a great pedigree, a great background, but there's one thing about being on the consulting side and the other side of going, okay, now it's mine. I've got to do it. Just
how long it would take to get it up and running off the ground. I mean, granted, we started a couple of, economic cycles ago, but we were coming out of, the dot-com crash of 2001. It was really slow, and it took years to really get some momentum or get things rolling. I was young enough that I had the time and I could kind of see it through, but kind of look back, and it's kind of funny to think that, when I look at what our numbers and revenue were those first year or two, it's kind of amazing. We stuck with it and kept it going enough to see some success.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. My team, not first full year, first 6 months, of course, a lot of it was getting the company going and everything and starting to get our brand down. And first year revenues were $1,500. I remember the team at the end of the year going, is this really going to work? I said, yes, no worries. Just hang in. This is exactly the way it's supposed to work. And it was funny because it was my fifth or sixth startup. And I remember sitting there going, this one is a lot slower than the other ones, but it'll work. What's some business advice that you received that at the time you thought it was great business advice and then later found out that this was really not a good idea?
You get a lot of advice. We started off as a pure play tech recruiting firm, and we've since expanded in some other areas. And one of the first areas we expanded to is within human resources, helping companies build out their internal HR departments. And I talked to a few people who didn't think that was a great idea. They just thought it was a little too commoditized. There wasn't a lot of people willing to, work with outside firms to help build that. And, I was confident in it. I thought we could do it. I'd seen it work, and I thought it complemented our client base really well. And it gives you the ability to evolve and grow with companies, which has always been what our model is. And it's worked great. I mean, again, that took time too. That business we launched, 7-8 years ago, and the first year and a half were slow. But if you put the time towards it and you just refuse to not let something fail, it'll be a successful eventually. It's just how much time it's going to take to get off the ground.
Yeah. Were your first year revenues more than 1,500? Did you beat me?
They were a little bit bigger than that, but it was not much.
I think everybody beat me that year. Tell me some of your core beliefs or tactics or systems or tools in order to be a great executor. Look, it all comes down to execution. You can have all the knowledge, but until you actually take that knowledge and execute on it. What are your secrets to execution?
It's something I learned kind of as my career went on. I'm not someone that likes to be micromanaged. I want an environment where we have self-motivated people who can work hard and drive their own success. At the same time, everybody needs a little bit of a structure framework. So it's implementing kind of a light, system of metrics and kind of self-reporting to help your manager or your practice leader understand where you're at any given time and where you need help. So it's kind of that right balance of management and kind of self-reporting, but without inundating people and having them fill out spreadsheets and getting bogged down with things that aren't helping them drive business.
Is there a lot of competition between your recruiters? Is there a scoreboard? Is there, what is there a lot of competition within that team of, hey, I've got 5 deals done this month, I got 10, I brought this in, or is it just kind of silos? What's the secret?
It's kind of a healthy balance. I mean, it's naturally a business where it's a lot of, type A personalities who want to be the best and like to be at the top of the leaderboard. At the same time, it's a pretty low key mix where there's a lot of people who are extremely successful here, but don't necessarily, boast about it or brag about it. And you'll see people who, what they're able to accomplish is phenomenal. And we obviously, applaud that and highlight it, but not to the point where it's obnoxious. So I think it's people who expect success and will work hard and do whatever it takes to kind of achieve it, but don't need gongs rung or kind of anything, sirens going off into closed deals.
Back here, where is it?
Right.
It's funny. We actually people ask me all the time. They're like, "What's with the gong?" It's for all kinds of little successes. Doesn't matter. It's like if I sit down for 2 hours to do my prospecting, finish the 2 hours, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I finished my prospecting. It's the little celebrations that
Sure.
going. What's some of your biggest strengths?
I'd say the strengths, it's identifying and relating to people. I think, I've recruited for a long time, and I think I can kind of quickly assess and understand someone and how to kind of work with them. And so whether that applies to helping our clients attract and understand kind of who the right people are to bring on board or do it internally. Like I said, I think what I do well is internally is surround myself with great people and give them the opportunity to be successful. You got to realize that you're going to find people who are going to be better than you are, and that doesn't scare me. So, I used to pride myself on being the top producer here, but I recognize to continue to grow that couldn't be a selfish kind of milestone. Like the only true success we'd achieve is when there's other people who are better at this than I am.
Yeah. And when you become a business owner and you can actually leave the business for a month and it still thrives without you, you. I've got friends and colleagues in the recruiting space. And one of the things they suffer all the time is they have the client, they find the candidate is willing to take the job. And right at the very end, the candidate says, my employer countered, I'm going to stay where I am. How do you combat that? Because it's really, really frustrating for them.
So first off, we spend an exorbitant amount of time on training and helping people deal with these types of scenarios or things. The fact is, when someone takes a counteroffer, it didn't just happen. It was something that was kind of in the works. And that's part of what a great recruiter does is just understand the full scenario, the full landscape of what's involved and what's happening. If the person's sole intention is to drive a counteroffer from their current client or their current employer, I think it's a bad move because I don't think that's any way to negotiate with somebody. I mean, if you're a prized employee and you're a top producer, your company should be valuing you throughout and not just when you try to put your notice in and leave. You're going to be doing some pretty serious damage and things that can't be repaired if you threaten to quit and only can get change driven by that. So that's a whole topic for another kind of conversation. But like at the end of the day, if you're developing the right relationship and you're understanding why someone's looking to make a move, and if it is the right match, it's not something that can be solved with a 10% increase in compensation. I mean, if that's all the person's looking for, we often suggest that job seekers talk internally. Like the first move before you change jobs is to look within. Can you improve your situation at your current company? If you can't, that's when you should start a job search.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the next steps for the business? How are you going to innovate? What's next?
Continue to grow. I mean, we've expanded. We used to do just tech recruiting. We launched the HR practice. We do HR recruiting. We launched a digital and marketing practice. We have a sales recruiting practice. We do quite a bit within outsourced recruiting. So even though it's been the same company for 15 plus years, we've been launching new things every 12 to 18 months. A big offering is going to be more within the HR consulting space. I mean, we recognize that talent acquisition is one key piece of the equation, but retention and employee experience and employee engagement is going to be a much bigger driver, and that's where people are going to win and lose in this whole job market. So we're pretty excited about where that's going and what we can do for our client base and help them really separate themselves from an employee retention standpoint.
You guys are actually playing in a very crowded space. What separates you guys and what's your value proposition to your clients?
It's extremely crowded. It's very fragmented. The barriers to entry are practically nil. So, on the plus side, it's just you have to continually produce. It's not very hard to engage with a new client, but can you be successful and can you work with them for 2 to 5 years and help them make 10, 20, 30, 40 hires? That's what we're able to do. And, it's a cliche, but it's ultimately our people. We've got better people than our competitors. We've had success hiring them from other firms in the space. They come here because they can join a better team. They can learn and they can do some pretty amazing things, and they get paid quite well to do it. So that's been a differentiator, and that's allowed us to continually bring great people on board from other firms.
And I guess partially, in fact, from the partnership possibility.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just it. If you want to be in this business, you want to have, uncapped financial potential and be in an organization where you're truly driving the business. That's what we can offer. And, the other firms or other kind of subsets of the market just don't have the same career growth.
So this podcast is going out to 123 countries around the world. Obviously, not every single market that's listening today is going to be an ideal client for you. But what's, if you had to say what's your ideal client for those that are listening, who would it be?
Yeah, absolutely. Our ideal client, the simple answer is anybody who's looking for top talent and realizes the way their path to success is great people. That's the first and foremost. But where we really get excited is companies that are doing fairly large scale, transformative hiring initiatives. So somebody hiring 10 to 20 to 50 people over a period of time. That's where we can put together a solution, align them with a team of recruiters that's going to help them and ramp up quickly and find top talent at in a quick manner at a reasonable, efficient price point. That's what we love to see. We've done it for a long time, and we're excited to keep doing it.
And now you guys are based in Chicago, but I take it you work around the country?
Yeah. So we've got roughly 45 recruiters in Chicago. We have a couple of them in other parts of the country, including some people down in the Southeast, specifically Atlanta. But in this market now, the ability to work, on a national level is pretty easy. I think most of our growth will continue to be in Chicago, but in terms of people, but clients and kind of engagements have been national, and then we've had success there. It's with our kind of methodology and how we go about finding people for our clients. It's pretty easy to spin up projects and get the market research we need in various markets to be successful.
Now, what if you're one of the employees and you're like, you know what, I'd like to actually move on from where I am. I think I'm at the cap or ceiling where I'm currently working. How would someone like that, would they reach out to you? What would their step be? Somebody sitting here listening, they think they're capped where they currently are. They want to see what the other opportunities exist. What do they do?
Well, obviously, get in touch with Hirewell should be your first answer.
All right.
But, the simple thing is, if you're not always kind of listening and paying attention to what's out there, you're missing the boat. You just never know when the perfect opportunity is going to present itself. It doesn't mean you need to interview at all times for everything out there, but there's just simple things you can do to stay abreast of the market. It's continually staying in touch with old coworkers. It's keeping your LinkedIn presence up to date. It's just, occasionally taking a call from a recruiter that has an interesting opportunity. You never want to be in a position where you have to make a move. You always want to be on your own terms. And if it's on your own terms, that's done by just, again, staying on top of what's out there and who's doing what, and, attending events or different things within your space to stay top of mind with people.
So parting advice for all the business owners out there, what do you tell them?
In terms of hiring, in terms of just growing a business, it's understanding what the need is. Anytime we've expanded into new areas, it's what you can consistently have clients asking you for help on. Where do you need help? What are the pain points you're consistently seeing? And that's how you expand, or that's how you grow a business. Don't try to, if you're trying to sell something that's not needed, it's a really uphill climb. But then be kind of quick to innovate if something's not working, and you see something that is, don't be afraid to change it. But at the same time, don't, if you bounce around too much and don't develop any kind of core expertise or core competencies, it can be a struggle. So you do want to have your core ideas and try to drive them as much as possible.
Yeah, I always like to say niche rhymes with rich. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So pick a lane. But I love that. It's really quite simple, isn't it? It's find out what your customers want, go out, get it to them. And so often as business owners, we create something, we fall in love with our creation, and it's like, I know everyone's going to love it because I love it. My mom loves it. My uncle said it was great, but we fail to ask our clients. They're actually the ones writing the checks, and it's so simple because they'll tell you exactly what they want. We just have to listen. So
absolutely.
Matt, thanks for coming on today. Tell the audience how they can get in touch with you if they have any needs on the recruiting side.
Yeah, please do. Our website's hirewell.com, HIREWELL.com. Find us on the web, LinkedIn, you name it. We'd love to help and can definitely do a lot for you.
Matt, I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Take care.